Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday, May the 30th, 8 o'clock here in Augusta. A little bit of a chillier start to the day than we're used to seeing this time of year, but a good start to the day. Sunny, that's all we can really ask for right now, and traffic moving pretty smoothly out there across the area. So hopefully everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. Everybody had a safe and happy and healthy day there, and able to honor some of those who served and lost their lives for our country. So we do appreciate everyone who made those sacrifices. We're taking a look here at some of our top stories from the area, some of the big things going on in the CSRA and beyond. Before we do, though, I want to show you how to subscribe to the YouTube channel real quick. This is where we do all of our streaming, all of our breaking news, all of our press conferences that we cover. Everything like that is going to be up on the YouTube channel. So if you go here to YouTube, you see this WRDW News 12. We'll search it up here, right there. And it'll take you right here to our channel. You can hit subscribe, you can hit watch live right here, and this will take you to exactly what we're doing right now, which is the morning headlines. We do these every morning. Of course, didn't do them yesterday because it was the holiday, but we do these Monday through Friday. We get those done usually about an hour, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then we do some other things throughout the day as well. So subscribe to the YouTube channel and be up to date with all that. Okay, let's get into it now. Starting off with a man now arrested and charged with cruelty to children in the second degree after a child was sent to the hospital following a shooting. He told police he went downstairs to take a phone call, later heard the gun go off. Police say he then went upstairs and found the kid with a gunshot wound to the head. It happened at Sterlington Apartments in Grovetown. It's not too far from Grovetown Elementary School. Our Alyssa Lyons has been following that story.
Neighbors were speechless as police officers swarmed the complex, carrying out evidence from the apartment. But the scene that got deputies' attention happened 8 minutes down the road. A 4-year-old child now sits in the hospital after a shooting in Grovetown. The call came in at 5:45 under unusual circumstances.
The Columbia County Sheriff's Office had conducted a traffic stop just outside the city limits on a vehicle that they observed driving erratically, and that's what kind of led to this. When they made the traffic stop, 2 individuals got out of the car holding the child that was shot, explaining that the child had been shot at the address over here on Sterlington Drive. At that point, they notified us, and we responded over here.
Kitchen says there were multiple children in the home.
We believe right now there was at least 2 adults, possibly 3, and maybe 3 children.
Kitchens believes the father was with the child when the shooting happened, and that the weapon was a pistol.
As it stands right now, we know of at least 1 gunshot wound to the head.
The 4-year-old child did have surgery, but we aren't sure of her condition. Investigators took a window from the scene and will be processed at the Grovetown Police Department. There are still plenty of questions left to be answered, like if the child accidentally shot herself or someone else had the gun, and if any charges are coming.
Okay, thanks for that, Alyssa, and we'll be sure to follow up on that, let you know of any updates, either with, we do know now these charged with cruelty to children in the second degree, but keeping an update, more importantly, on that child's status. Hopefully she is okay. More than 50,000 veterans call Augusta home, but the closest veteran cemetery is in Milledgeville. A plan to bring a veteran cemetery here to Augusta has been in the works for almost 20 years now. Our Laura Warren tells us now it's in the hands of the VA in Washington.
Yeah, it's, I just hope I live long enough to see it, because I'd like to be buried there.
Former Augusta Mayor Bob Young is also a Vietnam veteran, and he's been pushing for a veteran cemetery in Augusta for close to 2 decades.
If God wants it to happen, it's going to happen, and I hope he's on our side.
Augusta has set aside money to help with the access road and the demolition. The state has put the $1 million down payment in the budget that goes into effect this July. But many existing veteran cemeteries need additions in the state as they fill up. And those projects keep rising higher on the priority list, bumping this new cemetery out of the running.
We're number, as I recall it, we're like number 8 or 9 on the priority list for new cemeteries. And to get down to us, the budget would have to be $100 million this year. And it's just not there.
The budget is only about half of that, but they say now is the time. Don't let your elected leaders forget you care about this project.
The state has already told us that this cemetery will bury more than 700 veterans a year. and far outpace the combined burials in Milledgeville and Glenville, the other two state cemeteries. So the need for it is here, the desire to have it is here, the facilities to establish it are here.
The applications for next budget year at the federal level are due July 1st, so they'll renew the application and see where the VA puts them on that priority list. The Memorial Day holiday obviously being yesterday, we take a moment to pause and remember and thank all of those who sacrificed for our country. We stopped by the Memorial Day services across the area. Hallie Turner spoke with a man at the All Wars Monument who said once he heard the music play, he immediately got emotional.
Monuments like the ones behind me tell a story of those who paid a price and remind us freedom is never free. On days like today, the soldiers who serve beside them are taken back to the uniform.
Takes me back to 1966 and 67 in Vietnam. We lost so many friends.
The sounds bring him back to one word, 7 letters, and 3 colors.
Freedom is indescribable. It's something that you earn. It's not given to you. And somebody had to pay a price for it.
Today he shows up for the friends and brothers that didn't return home with him.
Well, to lose someone unexpectedly, especially in combat, you never really forget it. It lingers on each and every day of your life.
Never forgetting what he and so many others went through.
And the pain and suffering that they go through, and some of them still go through. Our Disabled Veterans Organization, they deserve a lot more recognition.
And when we look at the American flag, we remember.
It is a symbol amongst others, but the symbol of what it means to live our life through the freedoms that have been granted to us.
And some of us are living out those freedoms right now as we speak, whether you're at the lake, cooking out, hanging out with friends and family. Today serves as a reminder that none of it would be possible without the heroes who gave their lives so we could be freely where we are today.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Hallie. The VFW Post 5877 held a tolling of the bells yesterday. It's to honor those lost at sea. As Nick Veland reports, it's one of the finest traditions in the Navy.
Well, today for a ceremony, it was all about United States submarine veterans coming together to honor those submarines lost at sea and those individuals who are now on eternal patrol. Bells tolling on repeat, echoing throughout. Each ding falls after the name of a U.S. submarine lost and the fate of the crew.
When they start reading the lost submarines, it becomes a little emotional, and it's a little difficult to ring the bell. Every peal of that bell, we were remembering not only the boat, but those who served on the boat.
Wayne Phillips feels the bells from the time he was serving and heard the USS Scorpion was lost and wouldn't be coming home.
It's a chilling experience knowing that many of my shipmates, 99 to be exact, were lost in a moment of time. Never returned. It was it gets you in your heart. It did me.
All gathered to honor the true meaning of Memorial Day.
This is the day that you remember those that died for you.
And every monthly meeting for the denizens of the deep, they hold a smaller ceremony to honor those submarines lost for that specific month. And they tell me that it's just as hard as the last. In Aiken, Nick Veland on your side.
And those young and old gathered at Wade Hampton Park in North Augusta to show their respect for the fallen. Our Craig Allison was there as veterans remembered the friends they lost during war.
North Augusta's American Legion 71, this group's legacy goes all the way back to the founding of the American Legion itself in 1919. One of its original founders, Commander Jesse Lynch, also founded North Augusta's Legion 71. Today, veterans of multiple generations and wars heard the story of one of Commander Lynch's fellow founders who lost their son to World War II.
It was cold and it was far away from home. And they knew they were in the crosshairs of a war-seasoned German tank unit. He took part in guerrilla warfare, inflicting a heavy cost on the enemy at the expense of his own life.
His name was Lieutenant Eric Fisher Jr. Stories like his are why his father, General Eric Fisher Wood, helped found the Legion after World War I, not only to remember those who have gone, but to support those who still remember. To the mansions of the Lord. From songs to Leith Rangs, they also took time to read those the Legion had lost in the past year.
Frank M. Connolly, John Overstreet, Floyd T. Johnson.
The service and sacrifice of those we remember and honor today still inspire each of us. They served America in time of peace and war, yielding their last full measure of devotion so that justice, freedom, and democracy might survive.
And this is the band playing in the background and the American flag waving overhead. Dozens gathered at the Aiken County Veterans Park to play tribute.
Where people say Happy Memorial Day rather to say a thoughtful Memorial Day, which is much more appropriate than being happy on this particular somber day.
And this is how Eisenhower Army Medical Center is honoring the fallen service members. Each one of the flags out front of the medical center has a yellow ribbon attached to it. Each ribbon has the name of a different fallen hero. Flags also placed at the grave sites of our fallen military. You can see them here at Bellevue Memorial Gardens on Wrightsboro Road in Grovetown. But Augusta has been working towards getting the veterans the cemetery here in Augusta, where soldiers can be given a place of honor close to home. As we told you about, that was Laura's story a few minutes ago. The Augusta Green Jackets honored those who fought and died for our country by reserving a seat for those who didn't make it home. That plaque there reads, "These seats draped with the American flags are reserved for the men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our country." And for many in Savannah, Memorial Day holds a particular significance because of the most influential Air Force units, one of the most influential Air Force units in World War II that originated in Savannah. The mighty 8th Air Force, which was a grassroots military organization that helped pave the way for victory. And one of the veterans of the mighty 8th says we should never forget the fallen soldiers.
I not only feel an obligation to honor them, but also to ensure that successive generations are aware of the tremendous sacrifices that were made for their freedom, or they wouldn't be here.
Volunteers placed American flags in the museum's memorial gardens. Each one represents one of the fallen heroes who did not return home from combat. A U.S. Army soldier's remains are home 73 years after going missing in Korea. Corporal Luther Story from Americus, Georgia, was killed in action during the Korean War. He was last seen fighting off North Korean attackers, just 19 years old when he disappeared back in 1950. Corporal Story got a proper burial in Andersonville National Cemetery in Georgia. His niece thanked all who were there.
Proud that he's home, and I can feel your love, all of you, for him. And as I said, thank you for coming to celebrate his homecoming.
He was awarded the Medal of Honor a year after he was discovered missing, but now he can finally rest in peace. The story of Reality Winner, the former NSA document leaker who worked in Augusta, is now on a TV near you. Winner was arrested back in June of 2017. Federal court documents show she had top secret clearance. In 2018, she pleaded guilty to mailing a secret U.S. report about Russian interference in the presidential election to a news organization and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Sydney Sweeney plays Reality Winner. You can now watch it It's called Reality, and it's on HBO Max. The future of the new Atlanta Police Training Center is now in the hands of City Council, who will vote on the funding for it next Monday. An outcry over the center has made its way up to New York. Patrick Quinn has the details.
Over the weekend,
well, hello, Bard College.
Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock's commencement address in New York interrupted.
Bard College, you are living up to your reputation.
These are some of the latest cries in a long-winded fight against the building of the planned Public Safety Training Center in Atlanta, a project first proposed nearly 2 years ago by then-Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms.
We've talked about 21st century training, 21st century policing. You can't do that in subpar facilities.
In that September 9th, 2021 press conference, Bottoms said the public would pay $30 million towards the facility. But in the latest resolution, that number has ballooned to $67 million in public funding. Let me break it down. The council will vote on spending $30 million towards the development coming from the general fund, plus $1 million for a gymnasium coming from a public safety impact fee pool. Now here's the controversial part. The city will also be on the hook for the leaseback agreement with the Police Foundation. Lysandra Burks, Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta, tells me this will be $1.2 million every year for the next 30 years.
How can you so carelessly consider spending our hard-earned tax dollars on systems of harm instead of care?
But it's worth noting the city sees this $36 million as a neutralized cost and not a new or additional cost, because the city is already paying $1.4 million per year for facility costs at the current police and fire training sites. All of this will come to a head on June 5th.
What you're witnessing is democracy in progress.
Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
An Atlanta organization is raising awareness about the need for mental health resources for veterans and helping them connect with the help they deserve. Shepherd's Men is a nonprofit that raises money year-round to support a rehabilitation program for veterans that helps address their physical and mental health needs. Walt Marquez was deployed overseas in Iraq, Korea, and Afghanistan. He says he's known friends who are veterans who have taken their own life. Now he's committed to helping connect other veterans to resources they may need.
I served 20 years in the Marine Corps, and for a long time I just put my, those injuries to the side until I retired from the military, and then they surfaced. But I have a network of veterans that are there for me, and that's what we try to provide. It's just a network of veterans that, are looking to help other veterans, especially that are going through some mental health issues.
Last month, Governor Kemp signed a bill into law that establishes a mental health support program grant for veterans and their families. A man is walking across the country for wounded veterans, and he made a stop right here in Georgia. Anthony Bordenaro has that story.
Jack Huffman estimates that he will walk 3 million steps through his journey from Florida to Michigan. I caught up with Huffman as he was nearing Cordele.
So this is day 13 for Jack. What's your motivation through all this?
Just wanting to support our veterans, and I'm on my way to the Salute Our Warriors event in Rochester Hills, Michigan. It's on July 13th, and I'll be there at 6 o'clock sharp.
One step at a time?
One step at a time.
The journey is more than just about supporting veterans for Huffman. For him, it's about continuing to inspire young people. The journey started for him at the dinner table at Thanksgiving in 2017. At that point, he said he was drinking, eating, and smoking too much.
Something just clicked. And I started walking, I started eating right, and within, I think, 90 days, I lost about 50 pounds.
In Tifton, he was gifted a free pair of shoes by Tifton's best runner. Owner of the store, Don Borowski, says he's taking advantage of Jack to inspire kids in the county to do more.
A great, fantastic running community. And it's just not running, it's walking, it's run walking. It's just getting out there and becoming active.
You can track Jack through his Facebook, Jack Walks. He is on a fitness journey as he's logging 30 miles and nearly 60,000 steps per day. He's also burning nearly 5,000 calories per day. He still has 1,000 more miles to go.
I just with my son. I'll be jumping in the pond with him when I make it to the event, and I'm just looking forward to spending some time with him.
You can donate to his cause. I'll provide the link to do so on our website.
Inspire our communities to get up and get moving, chase our dreams a little bit. A lot of us get stuck where we're at,
Anthony Bornaro, WALB, your hometown news source.
Moving on to across the river, South Carolina, talking about a bill they're trying to get finalized that they don't decide to end their don't get it done before they end their special session. They have to wait until next year to finalize. They're talking about fentanyl and the punishments for trafficking that. So our State House reporter Mary Green has more.
Criminalizing fentanyl trafficking has been a top public safety priority for leaders here at the State House this year. The Senate recently passed a bill to do this, but it'll next be up to House members to decide if they'll accept a major change to this bill that came from a special request.
It's been a priority for law enforcement, a priority for the governor's office.
The bill that has now passed both the Senate and the House of Representatives would criminalize fentanyl trafficking, a crime that currently isn't on the books in South Carolina. People convicted of trafficking the drug would face between 7 and 40 years behind bars, depending on the amount of fentanyl they had and if they'd been convicted of doing it before. Senators also added a penalty enhancement for people convicted of trafficking fentanyl if they were also caught with a gun on them.
If they are convicted of this crime, what is wrong with making them lose their right to bear arms?
Some argued mandatory minimum sentences aren't effective crime deterrents, but believe this one would help.
This will, however, those that we do apprehend, give them an extra 5 years and deter them from doing it again. And that's important. Fentanyl is ravaging our community.
That's after months of urging from Governor Henry McMaster to increase the penalties for people caught illegally possessing guns, though the governor had called for wider penalty enhancements.
The governor's office has suggested to us, please give them and give South Carolina law enforcement a tool to go after bad people.
While the Senate unanimously passed the bill, some senators had concerns that making this change could hinder its chances of getting to the governor's desk in 2023. The new version of the bill will need to get another approval in the House, which passed it earlier this year after an extensive and contested debate.
The best way to get this bill done this year is to send a clean bill to the House without this amendment.
Lawmakers are still in a special session called by the governor, so they can take this bill up whenever. But at this point, neither chamber has publicly set a date for when its members will next return to their business here in Columbia. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
A Columbia gas station owner is now behind bars after killing a 14-year-old who he accused of stealing from his store. Nick Neville is in Columbia with the details.
A crowd of various community organizations and advocates against gun violence had been out here all afternoon. That crowd has dwindled some throughout the day. There's also a sign on the front door of this gas station store which says, "We're closed for Memorial Day. Sorry for the inconvenience." Richland County Coroner Nada Rutherford provided an update to the crowd here shortly after 3 o'clock, and there was loud applause when Xiao's charge was announced.
It's senseless. It doesn't make sense.
Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott describing the murder of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton outside a Shell gas station on Park Lane Road Sunday night. The store's owner, Rick Chow, has been charged in the killing.
It's just sad. It's sad. If y'all have seen that baby's name right there, that's all I can see. All I can see.
The owners suspected Cyrus of shoplifting inside the store, which RCSD has said did not happen.
Regardless, even if he had shoplifted 4 bottles of water, which is what he initially took out of the cooler and then he put them back, even if he'd done that, that's not something you shoot anybody over, much less a 14-year-old, but you just don't do that.
At one point, there was a verbal confrontation inside the store, but no indication that things turned physical. Cyrus was running away when he was shot. The coroner's office says he had 1 gunshot wound to the right lower back. Deputies recovered a gun believed to belong to the victim near his body. RCSD says there's no evidence he pointed it at or threatened Chow. One woman who saw the shooting happen and called 911 is calling for justice.
Do you even want to go in the store now? Because anything can happen now these days, and everybody's getting trigger happy. That young man didn't have to die like that, but for me to witness that yesterday, like, I'm in fear for my own brother. And for any of the kids that's in my neighborhood, because these kids, they come outside all the time. They come to the store all the time. Now it's like, now you got to watch your kids.
Sheriff Lott says there have been incidents and confrontations between customers and the owners of this store in the past, but nothing that would rise to the level of charging chow in any of those cases. Reporting in Columbia, Nick Nebel, WIS News 10.
Keeping it in South Carolina, a South Carolina veteran is hoping to encourage others to take advantage of a new Veterans Affairs program in the state. Andrew Fancher has more.
So it's something that I take to heart. It's something that I value, being able to say I was an American soldier.
Gabriel Trujillo's commitment to America began in his home country of Colombia when narco-terrorism pushed the Medellin native into joining the National Army. As a bilingual soldier, he recalls working alongside the DEA in their efforts to weaken the Medellin cartel and take down Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar.
This is '89 when the guerrillas are still very active. I was shot at, I shoot people back. Don't know what happened after that. So it wasn't a pleasant time, but it was something that I feel was my duty at the time to do.
Trujillo says he met Escobar on 3 separate occasions before retiring from the National Army as a second lieutenant. He moved to the U.S. on a student visa in 1990 and swiftly joined the U.S. military at age 26.
So going into the Army was a personal choice. Wearing an American flag on my shoulder was one of the biggest honors I can even be invested on it.
Shortly after gaining his citizenship in 2000, 2 airplanes struck the World Trade Center, prompting his immediate deployment overseas. With 8 soldiers under him, the weapons squad leader for the 82nd Airborne spent his first tour overseas in Kandahar, Afghanistan, completing 12 combat missions outside the wire.
We had tents. We had to fill up sandbags and put those around our tents just to protect ourselves from mortar attacks, from rocket attacks. We had to do that all the time. We had alarms blaring in the middle of the night that we had rockets coming into the base.
After 8 months of fighting al-Qaeda and the Taliban, the 82nd was deployed to central Iraq for what he described as 6 monotonous months.
It wasn't one of those things that time flies. It was very slow going. Every day coming out the wire, you didn't know if that was your last day. So we live one more day just to do it again the next day or the next night. That's how we live day by day.
Not including daily patrols, Trujillo served 19 missions outside the wire during his 6 months in country. 18 years and 1 career later, the former drill sergeant works for the SC Department of Veteran Affairs, the newest department in state government, whose main prerogative is reducing veteran suicides in South Carolina.
And it's not as much as telling war stories. It's actually about your feelings, how you feel inside, how you're coping.
The human-to-human-based program relies on 180 peers across the state whose primary goal is to supply, connect, and support veterans seeking their help.
They can guide you to resources. They can get the help that you seek. Even when you don't want to ask for help, they can get that to you because they know by talking to you, you need something. You have a need that needs to be fulfilled. So reach out to us.
Great resource. They're going to help out a lot of people there in South Carolina. The battle over raising the debt limit has moved on to Congress now. President Biden lobbying Democrats and House Speaker McCarthy Republicans to approve the tentative deal they reached this weekend to avoid a devastating government default. Kelly O'Donnell has the latest.
Tonight, a new test for President Biden and Speaker McCarthy. After the hard work of reaching a bipartisan deal to prevent default, can they get it passed through Congress? The president is cautiously optimistic.
Well, I feel very good about it. I've spoken to a number of the members. I spoke to McConnell. I spoke to a whole bunch of people, and it feels good.
Today, the House Speaker back on the Hill preparing for Wednesday's vote on the 2-year bipartisan agreement made this weekend. The plan suspends the nation's borrowing limit until early 2025, avoiding a catastrophic default. And on the budget, non-defense federal spending holds flat next year with a 1% increase in 2025. For months, Democrats had refused to discuss spending cuts tied to a debt limit increase. So many Republicans say curbing any spending is a win.
This was a carefully negotiated deal that balanced interests of people who, some people want to spend a lot more money and some people want to spend even less. This is a really good deal.
But frustration is smoldering in both parties. Many Democrats don't support the deal's expanded work requirements for some recipients of federal food assistance. Veterans and the homeless are exempted.
We are being held hostage. That is a very real word for where we are right now. There are things I would never vote for under normal circumstances.
While some conservatives say the deal still spends too much money, a point echoed by GOP presidential candidate Florida Governor Ron DeSantis today.
Our country was careening towards bankruptcy, and after this deal, our country will still be careening towards bankruptcy.
Senator Lindsey Graham weighing in as well, saying the debt ceiling deal is bad for our defense and he will do everything he can to change it. In a series of tweets yesterday, Graham blasted the deal that President Biden and Kevin McCarthy reached over the weekend. He also slammed Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell for supporting it. Graham says the deal doesn't have enough money for national security. Instead, the senator suggested raising the debt ceiling for 90 days to continue to work on the defense budget. End to the Memorial Day weekend on the beach in Hollywood, Florida, as police say a shootout in a crowded boardwalk area has left 9 people injured and investigators looking for answers. Alyssa Hyman has the latest.
And we did just get an update from police as well as the mayor of the city of Hollywood, who said that he was angered and saddened by what happened here. According to police, at least 9 people were shot and injured and rushed to the hospital. At least 3 of them were minors, one of them as young as a 1-year-old baby. Now, witnesses did give us cell phone video appearing to show the moments immediately after the reported shooting and the emergency response to the aftermath. You can see paramedics tending to multiple victims with injuries. Again, according to police, 9 people shot and injured, rushed to the hospital, at least 3 minors and at least 5 adults. We know one of them was 17 years old. Police say this started as an altercation between 2 groups near Johnson Street at the Hollywood Broadwalk near Margaritaville. Police also tell us they have detained 1 person and are searching for another person. Witnesses described hearing the gunshots, seeing waves of people running, and then several people with injuries. At least 1 person they saw seemed to have serious injuries. Take a listen.
And I heard like 3 gunshot sounds, and I just seen like a wave of people just running out, like screaming and running out. I started here 5, 6 shots, pa, 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 and everybody started running, and I touched down on the sand.
And we know one of the victims is in surgery. The rest of the 8 victims, according to police, are listed in stable condition. Police have described the man they're searching for as someone who has dreadlocks, was wearing a short sleeve shirt, and was in camo shorts. Police also say they're planning to share photos of people they believe may have been involved in this incident and that they're trying to track down or identify. And police are asking for the public's help in this. If anybody has any photos or video, they're asking you to contact the Hollywood Police Department. For now, reporting in Hollywood, Alyssa Hyman, NBC News.
Okay, let's get back here to some quick little Memorial Day things. Now on the national side, wrapping up one of the busiest Memorial Day travel weekends on record. As Chris Van Cleve reports, millions are now facing heavy traffic on the roads and long lines at the airport.
Worse than getting to Disney World.
But overall, this Memorial Day has been relatively smooth flying. Welcome news for U.S. airlines after a brutal summer travel season in 2022.
Demand is back, bigger, better than ever. But it's going to be an incredibly busy summer.
American Airlines Senior Vice President Brady Burns.
Is there a pressure that things go better this year than last year? Yes, so we took a lot of effort and investment in making sure that we've got the right people at the right place with the right tools, and we feel really, really good.
On the ramp at Phoenix Sky Harbor, every flight is a game of beat the clock. Unloading full planes, all the bags, then prepping and fueling the aircraft before loading it with more bags bound for its next destination, usually in less than an hour.
These peak travel seasons, does that pressure ramp up a little bit?
Yes, it does. I know in the summertime, the heat is on, and we do the best we could to make sure that flights get out on time and everybody has their luggages for their vacations.
Passengers are hoping this is a sign of smooth travels all summer.
Hopefully it'll be all like this, as easy as this.
Airports are expecting to stay busy through at least Wednesday, with TSA expecting another 3.8 million flyers. Well, as we honor those who served and sacrificed so much for the country, a very special reunion of former Vietnam POWs. Half a century after they were welcomed home at the Nixon White House, survivors were honored again at the Nixon Library. Here's Hallie Jackson.
Dinner for 400 in Southern California, and if the guests, the menu, and the centerpieces look familiar, that's because they are. In 1973, President Nixon hosted nearly 600 Vietnam POWs just a few months after the deal that let them return home.
You're the best we have.
The star-studded dinner said to be the biggest in White House history. Now, 50 years later, replicated at the Nixon Library, a reunion for those who sacrificed so much.
You think you're invincible initially, and that you can take all kinds of pain, but pain just completely consumes you.
Admiral Robert Shoemaker was captured by the Vietnamese, spending 8 years in the notorious Hoa Lo prison, although he came up with another name for it in a note he scribbled on toilet paper to a fellow American.
I was trying to cheer the guy up by simply saying, "Welcome to the Hanoi Hilton."
Lieutenant Porter Halliburton was held there too for a while. When his plane was shot down in 1965, his family thought he was dead, even had a tombstone made.
And a year and a half later, they came in and they said, you know what, we have something to tell you. And Marty said, "You're here to tell me my husband's alive." She said that was more difficult to deal with than my death because of the uncertainty.
He returned to the U.S. in 1973, as did Shoemaker, welcomed home by his wife and son, who'd been born just a few weeks before his dad left for war. What was that like?
She prepared her son, who was a really competitive little kid, by asking him, "Well, how are you going to greet your father, you know?" And he kind of shrugged his shoulders. And I'm sorry, I get choked up.
Yeah.
And he didn't say a thing, but anyway, he beat her to me.
The two reuniting with other POWs.
We were a family over there.
Sharing their stories with a generation for whom Vietnam is distant history.
If our stories can be inspirational to young people that, you know, freedom isn't free.
A legacy of service and sacrifice that lives on. Hallie Jackson, NBC News.
And some big news out of Davenport, Iowa, where a partially collapsed apartment building came down last night, and already the search for survivors has ended. But now there's new outrage and agony from a family who says their loved one is still missing. It all comes as we're finding out the safety of the building has been an ongoing concern. Shaq Brewster has the latest.
The frickin' building just collapsed.
Tonight, family members of Lisa Brooks are desperate for answers after a partial building collapse in Davenport, Iowa.
Told her I love her, and that was all. That was the last time I talked to her.
Antoine Rabbit Smith Sr. says they still can't reach his aunt, who he says lived in the building.
I just wanted some kind of information, like tell me something, anything. Like if you have found her and she's in a morgue somewhere, tell me something, instead of just sitting here playing the waiting game.
Parts of the historic 84-unit apartment building crashing down Sunday evening. Fire crews rescuing 8 people from the rubble, escorting a dozen others safely out of the building.
There was a lot of screams, a lot of cries, a lot of people saying help. I'm hoping and praying that the screams that I heard when the building came down was not people inside of it.
One person trapped for hours, now in the hospital, as officials worry about what's left.
The building is structurally unsound. It's posing a risk to responders, and we are actively working for the best course of action for the building.
The mayor says crews spent hours searching the wreckage overnight and have now stopped looking for survivors.
Rescue's over.
And now it's about recovery.
Recovery, and what are we doing with the building?
And as of now, there's no one under there that you know about.
That we know about.
How concerned are you that that may change?
There's always a concern.
What's next?
Lisa Brooks' family has called local hospitals and police and insists their loved one is still unaccounted for.
She's not anywhere, nowhere to be found.
The cause of the collapse is under investigation, but officials acknowledge residents have been filing complaints about the building for years. They say they're still working to contact every resident.
Any type of complaint is investigated, checked out, and inspected, and we did that a lot with this one.
It's a sad situation there. 12 horses have either died from injuries or from being euthanized in Lexington, Kentucky. Still plenty of racing left for the spring meet at Churchill Downs, but people both in and out of the industry are wondering what the heck's going on over there. Madeline Carter has the story.
Almost 800 races at Churchill, and I've never seen a rash of injuries like this.
Trainer Dale Romans watched his horse, Real Moon, go down at the finish line.
He looked like he was moving great. The jock said he was moving fine, and then just one step and he was gone. And I couldn't go down there. I couldn't go watch him euthanize him. I had to turn around and leave. It's just too difficult a situation.
The 3-year-old thoroughbred suffered a catastrophic injury to his left foreleg and had to be euthanized on May 14th, the 9th horse to die at Churchill Downs this spring. Following 2 horse deaths during Memorial Day weekend, the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority is stepping up to get to the bottom of it, with plans to hold an emergency veterinary summit on Tuesday to thoroughly review the 12 total fatalities. Then on Wednesday, well-renowned track superintendent Dennis Moore will conduct a second analysis of the racing and training surfaces at Churchill Downs.
It's kind of scary that something could be going on that's endangering them.
Roman says what makes these deaths so unusual is that there doesn't seem to be a pattern. The 12 horses suffered different injuries in different places, both on and off the track, a phenomenon horse racing fans say is troubling to witness.
I love horse racing, and it's very sad to sit there and watch it. I mean, I was in the grandstand watching this stuff every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's no good.
Longtimers in the industry like Romans agree something's wrong. Now the race is on to figure out what's made the 2023 spring meet so deadly.
Everyone that works back here and everyone that works at Churchill Downs will spare no expense to make, if there's a problem, find out where it is and what it is and fix it.
Just crazy stuff over there. I feel like it was something we heard about when the Derby was coming up. Had like 5 horses die right before then, and then kind of went away, and now apparently that problem's still been going on up there. Okay, let's finish it up here. Every April, Augusta is the center of the golf universe. Now the spotlight is shifting to those who helped so many golfers win a green jacket. Authentic Augusta and the Lucy C. Laney Museum are honoring an important part of Masters history, black caddies. Our Maria Sellers takes us back in time.
The experience starts with Willie Pappy Stokes. He's known as the grandfather of the caddies.
Don't nobody know this golf course better than me.
Then there's Willie Cemetery Petit, personal caddy to President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
But every now and then, the president would throw a wrinkle into my plans.
Willie Pete Peterson was on the bag for Jack Nicklaus when he won his first 5 green jackets.
I had enough energy for the both of us. He called me a great character.
Actors telling the stories of some of Augusta National's most famous caddies from 1932 to 1982.
It means so much to me because no one knows the true history of the caddies, their life story of the caddies, how they became a caddy.
Nowhere in the world has this story. Just like nowhere in the world has the Masters.
I didn't know too much about a caddy, but I learned a lot in the history and what the caddies did on the course.
But the best stories are coming from the legends themselves.
I'm glad this happened, and we have to continue doing this because the golf is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we need to be there.
Jim Dent never got to play in the Masters, but he had a long career as a professional golfer.
Practicing hard, worked hard, got a PGA card.
He was also inducted into the Caddy Hall of Fame with some of his fellow caddies.
Never played in my life. I was considered one of the best caddies out there.
I appreciate Lee doing something before us that we being recognized like we should have in the first place.
They're hoping this experience will get more people interested in the game.
I'm thinking about the youth of golf, the black youth. That's what we need to bring up.
In Augusta, Maria Sellers on your side.
And if you're interested in hearing these stories for yourself, the experience will be at the Lucy Craft Laney Museum 1 weekend a month. We've got that full schedule up on our website, WRDW.com. That's also where you can catch all of our stories, and be sure to download the WRDW streaming app on your favorite device, and then also subscribe to the YouTube channel. So that's it for headlines. 15 minutes here till the morning mix, and then we'll be back here.